Hi, my name's Andy Seale. I am the Extinguisher Divisional Manager and I've worked at OHEAP for 28 years. Fire extinguishers need to be serviced every year, and it's important that they work if required in an emergency situation. In a fire risk assessment, there is a requirement that extinguishers are serviced by a competent engineer to certificate them so that you know you're going to be safe if required. There is a minimum requirement to have an annual service on fire extinguishers. However, in areas, quarries, where they're very dirty, extinguishers can be serviced every 3 months or every 6 months, but predominantly it's an annual service. So an inspection is normally carried out by the customer, the end user. They must inspect their extinguishers under the British standards once a month to make sure that they're in the correct position, they're hanging on a bracket and they've not been used. A service is when a qualified engineer will attend site and carry out specific actions as highlighted in British standards. The British standard is BS 5306 and all our engineers are certificated to that standard. In the British standards, there is a list of failures that affect an extinguisher to be certificated. The majority of these are CO2 extinguishers are only allowed a 10-year lifespan. Once that lifespan expires, they're a failed unit. However, we find failures when we discharge wet extinguishers, as their liner can pull away, it can tear, and therefore means it can't be refilled. The answer to the question is CO2 extinguishers expire at 10 years. However, gauges and other items fail on wet extinguishers periodically. Discharge testing is very important for fire extinguishers. It is to renew the contents of the extinguisher, also testing that the extinguisher works. At a discharge test, the engineer will let out all the contents of each extinguisher. We remove that from site under our environmental policy. The contents are replaced with new. It ensures that the extinguisher is in top working order for the next 5 years. Retaining O-rings, like the head O-ring, is replaced at the time of this discharge test. We carry out all discharge tests, including waters, wet chemicals, foams and powders at site. And we're one of the very few companies that actually do this. We prefer to discharge test instead of replacing. BS 5306 Part 8 tells you the exact sizes and types of extinguishers the building should have. There's a special calculation that's used in the British standards that all engineers will use to work out the standard rating that's required to fulfil the British standards in complying with the correct fire cover for each floor, each area, and the whole building as an entirety. We issue a fire certificate once the extinguishers are serviced. We now send these automatically through our electronic system, and it gives a certificate of conformity under the British standards to ensure that the customer has got a record of what's been done and what hasn't been done on extinguishers. It also confirms if there's any additional actions that require to be taken. Fire risk assessments require a certification to be issued. Also, it's good for the Health and Safety at Work Act, and your fire logbook should be updated every time an engineer attends site. Fire extinguishers are a very small part, but very important part of the whole fire strategy. It is part of the fire risk assessment, which is your legal requirement, and it will indicate that extinguishers are placed in the right places and do the right thing, but also goes on hand in hand with training. So people get trained on fire extinguishers should they need to be used in a fire situation. Also goes hand in hand with fire alarm servicing, emergency light testing, and training protocols.
At OHEAP Fire and Security, our expert engineers are here to keep your business safe. Book your fire extinguisher service today or contact us to learn more.